You made it. Welcome back. Yeah, BEA, Beautiful Souls. Today's video, I'm just going to be talking about Warden in the testing grounds. Remember, these are subject to change at this moment in time, but I played quite a few games with Warden, and I think I have an understanding on how to play this character now. The Warden is getting quite a big buffs, if you ask me. Very big. And he's going to be a little bit different when it comes to build diversity. You're going to have a lot of ways to play him, and that's pretty awesome. You know, the guy with plot armor, the guy who always gets all the reworks, the favoritism, well, you should be pretty happy about that if you're a Warden main. Let's just go over it, and I'll give you guys my opinions on the matter at hand here, and see if you guys should actually test it out, or just, you know, continue to play Warden the way he is. So with Death Toll, it's going to be killing soldiers grants you plus 3 HP and plus 3 stamina per soldier, and it replaces body count. So it's just an upgraded body count. This is probably what you should be running every single time now. As you can see in the background footage, when I kill an enemy in the minion lane, you know, I barely lose any HP now. Usually beforehand, with body count, you would pretty much go minus. You would lose HP even though you would entirely kill the entire minion lane, and that's like a horrible experience. You're like, okay, I hate being in the minion lane, but it's pretty necessary because it gives you the most amount of points. And with this Death Toll, the new upgraded body count, you're either going to get more HP or you're going to remain stalemate, which is good. It keeps you in the fight for longer, so you don't have to retreat, because sometimes if you don't hit all the soldiers as much as you want to, and they deal a bit of damage to you, then you're going to be at a disadvantage when you do come up against somebody with full HP, because the minion lane, a lot of people are just going to rush towards the minion lane after respawning, and you're going to be at a health disadvantage whether you lost 20 HP or like 30 HP. So this is just an overall buff. It's just going to be the feat that you want to be running. I don't think anybody really runs. I'm surprised they didn't actually buff or rework Come At Me. Nobody ever really runs that feat. That feat is kind of a detriment to use, because when you do use it, you have to be on point and make sure no enemy is there or it's going to rush there, because then you'll have a defense debuff, which is, it can be pretty cool to win that fight. I've run it before quite a few times just for fun, but definitely at a disadvantage. Personally, it just becomes useless when you start getting your tier 4 or tier 3, and then after that point, it's just kind of worthless. I'd rather just have Death Toll a consistent value over the entire course of the game, because you're going to be in minion lane a lot anyways. And then that's pretty much my thoughts for tier 1. Very solid, very easy to buff, and I'm surprised they didn't give it to the other characters. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And Feeble, this is a very strong feat. It kind of reminds me of Medjai's tier 2, where essentially if you land the bash, it will lower the attack or defense, which is pretty sick. So it's essentially the same thing. And what this does is, it is also a passive, so he's basically going to have a crap ton of passives. Shoulder bashing opponents temporarily lowers their attack damage. 20% damage for 10 seconds, and it replaces Fiat Lux. Now, Fiat Lux did get a buff. It does 5 damage now, and it also cleared minion lane. So, like, Fiat Lux, for that replacing it, I feel like he did lose some value on that aspect. So, his other feats that he had was Inspire and then Thrilling Comeback. So, you still get to choose different playstyles. However, since I believe that they had added Death Toll so you can melee and get all your HP back with your heavy attacks and your tier 1, they decided that you don't need a tier 2 that can remove, you know, a bunch of the minions and clear them without engaging. So with Enfeeble, this makes so that if you land your shoulder bash, which is the main point of your offense, and you're going to be landing this 24/7, it's a 10-second debuff for your damage, a 20% damage. I noticed this significantly because as soon as I landed it, they would just do so much less damage to me, and it gave me quite a huge PP. You know, I was pretty cocky afterwards because I could take a lot of damage for 10 seconds. This is pretty strong. I think this would be the meta pick for Warden, specifically because it debuffs your opponent so much. Like, even if you debuff one opponent in a team fight and you charge a bash to hit the other guy, that's a minus 20% damage debuff for a team fight, and you guys can survive like maybe one more light attack, and it's pretty huge, you know, very, very huge when it comes to the entire playthrough of a team fight. So it's very strong, really powerful for duels too, because it stops them from like obliterating you with a load of damage. And so nerfing the damage on your opponents is really strong. And of course, the 50/50 is pretty much unreactable. It's very, very strong. I mean, it is unreactable, but like it's one of the best 50/50s in the game. And so this landing on every single mix-up, and I don't believe there's a cooldown either, is really strong. So this is definitely going to be your go-to. You can still run Inspire to like help your teammates deal more damage. So there's still plenty of build variety there. Enfeeble for like the 1v1 or debuff paladin style gaming, and then Inspire for like the damage buff gaming. And then of course you have Thrilling Comeback if you really want to stall, because Thrilling Comeback is actually very good now. You get 40 HP after surviving when you get revenge. Well, actually you get HP when you get revenge, but like it's very helpful in my opinion, like really, really helpful. If you manage to get like 2 Thrilling Comebacks, two revenge in one team fight, like that's pretty freaking crazy. In one anti-gank, you're gonna get like freaking 80 HP, so it's pretty sick. If you play defensively, play very well with Warden, you're gonna get so much HP back. So I feel like there's plenty of build variety here with Warden now, especially on his tier 2s. Enfeeble, I think, is just going to be the meta pick for him, because having that damage debuff is so powerful. It just makes everyone's weapon a wet noodle, basically. 24 damage turns into 24 damage turns into 20, I believe. So like that's like a huge difference, man. That absolutely huge difference. You're going to be landing that bash too. His bash, you're always going to hit all the time. So there'll always be debuff. They will always be debuff. Personally, maybe 20% might be too much. They could probably lower it down to 15 or 10%, but at this moment in time, you know, I felt like it was pretty strong. Now, moving on over to his tier 3 total recovery. It is also a passive as well, and successful revives return allies to full health and replaces takedown. Takedown was a pretty useless move. You could have fun with it, but over like the course of 5,000 hours in For Honor, I've only seen like 1 or 2 wardens actually run this, and I never saw them again, and I never saw anybody run this ever in the history of time. This is an absolutely worthless feat. Worthless for everybody except for like maybe Nusha. Nusha's the only one that probably benefits from this, because she has like wall splat potential, or she throws. People are scared of her mix-ups. It's unreactable. A lot of people try to dodge, and she can GB easily to get a throw max punish. So Nusha is probably the only one that really benefits from that. Maybe Centurion too, actually. Centurion would definitely kind of benefit from that. But when it comes to total recovery, I thought this was going to be a pretty powerful feat. But remember, revives are pretty niche. They're not the most optimal thing to do. They're good for like helping your teammates come into the fight pretty quickly. There are like other builds with like Lawbringer, where you have a Rising Dawn build where you revive someone and then they gain a shield. So that's pretty sick. But of course, you have to wait for like the entire revive speed. I don't know how long it is. It takes quite a few, maybe like 4 seconds or 5 seconds, but like that's a long time to rest somebody when in the midst of a team fight. Usually they'll be in danger. If they're not in danger and they're just in a random place, then this feat is like ridiculously good. But if you can't pair this with like speedy revive, I feel like it's not as useful. And I believe even Second Wind is just way more beneficial, because you can heal yourself. It's pretty freaking helpful. Pugno Mortis is good for confirming some damage, but I wouldn't run this either. I would probably just run Total Recovery or just Second Wind for myself. If you want to be a team player, if you want to cosplay as like a paladin or healing paladin, I think Total Recovery is going to be your go-to. I mean, this is very helpful. It is insanely beneficial to have a full HP teammate, or even a half HP teammate, to go into the team fight right away without having to walk and respawn for like 10 seconds and then walk to the team fight, run to the team fight, which is another 5 seconds. So it's like 15 seconds total, unless they get executed and all that good stuff. But, you know, full HP teammate coming back right away if your enemies aren't paying attention. This is a team fight winning tier 3, but that's only if you get a revive and they are executed. So there's quite a few variables that come into play here, and Warden is pretty decent at running, so I feel like he can get to the team fight pretty quickly, and that's not a bad thing at all. So this tier 3 will have some build variety, like I said before. Depends on what you want to run. If you want to be more of an anti-gank or a staller, I would choose Second Wind. If you want to be more of a healer, a support class, then go with Total Recovery. And I think this is a solid feat overall. I don't think it's broken, at least from the time that I played. I tried rezzing people in a fight, but like you don't really get that much revives in a game unless people aren't executing. So like the revives will depend on the game itself. I played like, I don't know, like 8 games with Warden, and I didn't really get a chance to revive that much. At higher level lobbies, it's pretty hard and it's pretty rare to get revives because a lot of the maps these days, especially the new Viking map, they're all team fighting maps. So the enemies are going to be very close. There's not going to be a lot of wiggle room to run away or like be in a weird space where there's like 20 feet before the enemy can reach you because they're at their base, you know, healing, right? So you can't really use this effectively in like really hardcore fights because you want to be stalling, you want to be pretty much essentially team fighting all the time, and I feel like this is pretty situational, but if you can find a way to make this work, then that's a good thing. So the next one is going to be Trebuchet. It calls a quick strike damage to deal massive damage over an area. Essentially, it's going to be a better catapult, a faster catapult. It doesn't one-shot, it just does 70 damage if you are in the vicinity of the max damage potential. So it's 100 and I believe it's 180 second cooldown or 160 second cooldown. 1 second activation time, and it's going to absolutely be his meta pick in my opinion. This one is very good. I think it does very good damage, and it is easily confirmable with a teammate if they are paying attention. Just simple GB and then boom shakalaka. There's a crap ton of damage, like a crap ton of damage. If this is an open map that you're playing, you definitely want to be running this over Stalwart Banner or even Morale Booster. But of course, like I said, there is build variety here, which is awesome, mate. It's pretty freaking sick. So if you want to run like a more damage-based character, you can either go Bomb Bringer or Bomb Warden. I don't know how you pronounce that. Give me a funny name, like Warden Bringer. I don't know. But you could run Pugno Mortis and Trebuchet, so you have tons of bombs at your arsenal. And this is very fast. It's much faster than Catapult. And you can use this to clear minion lane without wasting like the one-shot catapult. And open areas, this is definitely going to go to. It may be in indoor areas, you can't use this indoors, so you definitely want to be using like Stalwart Banner or Morale Booster. I think Stalwart Banner would probably be better, but I mean Morale Booster can come in clutch from time to time too. So this is just an overall buff to Catapult. Now, playing with all these new feats, I did mess around with like a few where I switched to Second Wind, and I still use like all the new feats too. But Second Wind and mixed in with Total Recovery, they're both freaking good. So does this improve Warden significantly? I think it does make him much stronger, like much stronger. I don't know if it's going to make him like S tier. I think he's still a solid character, but remember with Warden, he still revolves mainly around that 50-50 bash. Without that 50-50 bash, you only have that unblockable mix-up and your very big hitbox heavy attacks, which is great, don't mind, like seriously, that's very strong. But without that 50-50 mix-up and without being able to read and have the decent reactions to parry oncoming attacks and react to your opponent's animations, I don't think Warden is going to be like freaking OP. He's still going to require some work in my opinion. He's going to be pretty strong though, I'm not going to lie. He'd probably be like A tier, like a low A tier in my opinion when it comes to the adjustments of these feats. With these feats, he does become a lot stronger and a little bit scarier and threatening. So you definitely can't underestimate him. His zone attack is still very good. His heavy hitboxes are great. His minion clear is fantastic, so he can be a minion clear character now. His team fighting is not too bad either, but remember your defense capabilities aren't as good as Pirate, Orochi, Varangian Guard, Nobushi, all the top tier team fighters. You're still lacking that department. You're only really good in offense and confirming unblockable heavy finishers, which is the main point of the character. But if you get into a scuffle against like really high tier players or high tier opponents or high tier heroes, you might suffer in that regard. That's why I don't recommend him for like new players or players that don't have the reactions or reads. There's much better characters out there like Jane June, even Tiandi, Zhanhu. Those characters are much better than Warden when it comes to like team fights and just playing the game, because this character does require he does have a higher skill floor because you have to bait stuff out and you have to utilize that shoulder bash because it is slower, but it is unreactable. So you have to pick and choose your poison. So with Warden and all these new buffs, I think these are great changes, honestly, like very good changes for the character that he's going to do very well. I think he's going to be picked a lot more often, especially with all the build variety that he has. Like having more build variety on the characters is a good thing. There's not a lot of build variety in other characters, and so hopefully Ubisoft buffs and adjust some other feeds that we have in the game. That would really be beneficial for us. So that's my thoughts on the matter at hand. Let me know how your guys' experience are going with Warden. I think the testing grounds is only out for another week or so, or a couple days, so be sure to test it out and see if you like it or not. I'm pretty sure these changes will go live as soon as possible. It's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a pretty positive feedback for the developers. So pretty good changes. Let's work on my boy Conquer next. All right. Thank you so much for listening and tuning into the video, guys. Hope you guys have a beautiful day. Bye bye. See you later.